All right. My next guest ruled the comedy world in the 70s and the 80s. You loved him in the Dukes of Hazzard, Pink Lady and Jeff. And his record, what was it, like 50,000 times late night with David Letterman, at least. Also a master magician. I've seen that firsthand. Please welcome to the show, Jeff Altman. Hello.
You know him, you love him, you can't live without him.
Thanks for hanging out with me. Appreciate it.
Jeff, I appreciate the opportunity to do this as well.
Awesome. So I know you're into magic now, but comedy was originally your thing that kind of propelled you into all the acting and spokesperson stuff.
Yep.
Did you know you always wanted to be a comedian, or were you always funny? I mean, did you know you always wanted to do something in entertainment?
My father, Jeff, was one of the best card guys in the country. He was a skillful magician in general, but one of the best card men in the United States. So he passed down a few things to me, and then I went away to college and I in Baltimore and spent some time with some really great guys there. When I got out of college, I drove to the West Coast thinking I was going to be a funny magician, and realized fairly quickly you couldn't make a living doing that necessarily unless you were better than I was at the time. Then I got up one night at the Comedy Store and tried doing David Fry's old act, and Mitzi told me to come back, and I started doing stand-up and started developing an act. I guess the rest is history.
How long did it take you to hone the act before you got your first big break?
I don't know what my first big break was. The first time I was on TV was the Merv Griffin Show in 1975.
Did you do like Mary Hartman or something like that? No, it was after that. That was after that. Oh, okay. Yeah. So how did you end up on the Merv Griffin Show right out of the Comedy Store?
Well, I was working at the Comedy Store one night, and one of the talent scouts was there, and I said, would you be interested in having me on the show? And he said, well, yeah, why don't you come in and audition, and we'll see how you do. And so I did that, and they said, this is fine. And I went in and I did a really nice job on the Merv Griffin Show the first time. The second time, it was one of those afternoon audiences where they bust the crowd in, and there's no one who's under 75 years old. It was like I was giving a lecture in a chemistry exam or something, and nothing. And then the third time I did it, I think I did okay. So I did 3 Merv Griffin shows that year.
Most people, they talk about like trying to get on to Carson, or they'll talk about like the first set on Carson. So there was other avenues when you're doing the Comedy Store or the improv and stuff. So there's Merv Griffin. What else? Mike Douglas. Those kind of. What else was around?
I did the Mike Douglas show a lot. He was a great guy, Mike Douglas. I was lucky they liked me, and I did a bunch of those shows. I wouldn't call it necessarily. I don't know what the break was, if there was a break. Maybe the Tonight shows that I did in the 70s.
I'm realizing that there was more paths from comedy to TV comedy. Most people just kind of always focus on, I think you talk about like the first time they were on Carson or something, but you were breaking into TV way before you even got onto the Tonight Show. You were doing, these are big shows, Merv Griffin.
They were back then, yeah.
Mike Douglas, yeah. Well, Merv, he invented Wheel of Fortune, Jeopardy. He's the man, Merv Griffin.
As Merv would have said, ooh, strong. That's what he said to me after I did my first set on the show. He said, ooh, strong. That's how Merv sounded.
How did they react during that second set? That's probably when the audience wasn't.
Oh, the host, that was Roger Miller. Do you remember Roger Miller, the singer? Sailor for sailor, rooms to lend 50 cents. Man of means by no means, king of the road. Does that ring a bell?
I mean, no.
Well, good. Roger Miller was a singer and very popular back in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. He guest hosted that show. As I say, I got no laughs, maybe one laugh. And when I came off the stage, Roger Miller looked at me and said, that was fantastic. I told that to Letterman. He thought it was pretty funny. So he walked around the office that day going, that was fantastic.
I did stand-up comedy for a while. And I always thought the worst thing in the world was when you did a set that you thought was shitty and somebody came up to you and went, that was great. You were so funny. We loved it. And you're thinking, no, it's the worst. That's what you think is great.
You don't know whether it was pity or what it was.
Yeah. Oh, man. So who were the other up and coming comedians? I know you met Letterman. eventually the Starland Vocal Band show. So we can get into that. But like, who else were like the people you hung out with that were also would become names?
Jay Leno, George Miller, Johnny Witherspoon, Roger Bear. There was a team called Roger and Roger that was very popular back in the 80s and stuff. One of the Rogers was a very close friend. And then I had people in Magic who were at the Magic Castle in Hollywood, which was like a mecca for magicians all across the country. And so I would go up to the castle, and I had a lot of friends up there. So between comedy and the magic, I had, a good amount of buddies.
So you're doing magic shows also?
No, not that.
Oh, no, you're just hanging out there.
I'm just hanging out.
Okay, you're just hanging out. Cool. So this is when you became good friends with David Letterman. This would be one of your first shows featuring a musical act that they were trying to get exposure for. We'll talk about Pink Lady in a minute, but the Starland Vocal Band shows. So the thing that came out of this of note is your lifelong friendship with David Letterman. You still hanging with him? Is he still on your speed dial? Or
he's one of my best friends. We talk. Yeah, we're very close friends.
I'll tell him I said hi. And Jeff Altman says
I'm very lucky in that respect as well. That we've cultivated a wonderful friendship. He has a few close friends from those days, and I just am lucky to be one.
It's great to have people that you can reflect back on and kind of laugh. So you were on his show like a million times. Like there was so many. I mean, in addition to all the other late night shows, I think at least 40 plus times you showed up on Letterman. That must have just been. Were you on speed dial, or like he just like, get me Jeff Altman. We need him tonight. We got all.
No, sometimes it was that, but most of the time it was me calling up going, is it possible you can get me on in April? And some woman would go, not necessarily. Yeah, you'd call up for a shot, and you'd either get one or not. And I was just lucky that I had a good relationship with the show, and they put me on quite a bit.
Amazing. And then you were on Evening at the Improv. Solid Gold. You were the in-house comedian.
I was the in-house comedian on Solid Gold. Do you remember that show?
I remember Solid Gold. Yeah.
The Solid Gold dancers were always a treat. I was the comedian on that show.
You played a lot of characters on that show. Yeah, bits and stuff like that.
I did a strange character called Count Downula. It was like I was counting down the music. But Count Downula, who talked like this, it's very nice to be here to talk about different songs and the pieces that are instrumental. And then he would turn into Rodney Dangerfield for no reason. So it would seem like, hello, it's great to be here today. But I'll tell you, it's rough. Really rough. I get no respect at all. Okay? All right.
Oh, man. So, well, speaking of Rodney Dangerfield, you were on one of his specials. You were the stand-up specials and his Not Easy Being Me special. Yep. And you were in Easy Money. Do you have any cool Dangerfield stories? I mean, besides the robe, I'm sure you saw the robe, but yeah.
Rodney was one of a kind. I mean, as a stand-up, there was almost, I don't know, not too many people that I ever saw that were stronger than Rodney. I just have one memory of him coming into blowing into the Comedy Store one night and just turning the joint over. He just got up on stage and just went nuts, and it was fantastic. I saw him do that on many occasions. He could just rip you a new one. I was lucky that he put me on one of his specials on HBO in, I think, 1985 or 6. Jerry Seinfeld was on that show before he was really famous, and Robert Townsend and Bob Nelson and Roseanne Barr.
That's a famous episode or iteration of that. I remember Bob Nelson with his the football players.
Oh, yeah. Bob Nelson was my style of comedian. He was funny. You couldn't help but laugh at that guy.
So funny. Yeah. And then Jerry Seinfeld, later you'd be in the B Movie.
I did a character in that film called Uncle Carl. Uncle Carl in the B Movie was just your average uncle who's kind of never drunk, never sober. He kind of talks like this. Look, buddy, I don't need it. I'm 59 years old and I don't need it.
Was Jerry Seinfeld fun, or was it good to work with him as a director and like all that? Was that a good great set, guy. A fun set?
Really great guy, yeah. And being directed by him was a pleasure, Let's do another take, do anything you want, that kind of thing. So I really enjoyed being around Jerry when those times present themselves.
Is it less pressure to do just a voice Or is it even harder because that voice has to be so recognizable because that's the whole acting.
Well, I did some voiceover work for cartoons. It's less pressure than having to be in front of an audience, certainly, in my opinion. I was friendly with a guy named Frank Welker. I don't know if that name rings a bell, but he did more voices, I think, just about than anybody in Hollywood in my time. In my generation, Frank Welker was the guy, and he could do everything. And I did a what?
Scooby-Doo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
He was a great impressionist, and he was a funny comedian, and I was lucky to work with him. I worked on a show called Slimer, where I did a character called Dr. Dweeb.
Oh, for Ghostbusters stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah, you did a couple Ghostbuster, if I remember seeing on your thing. Yeah. Real Ghostbusters, a couple iterations. So same character in the different iterations.
Yeah.
Do you do Comic-Cons? I know you do the Dukes of Hazzard stuff where you do the Dukes of Hazzard stuff, but you ever just gone to a Comic-Con?
I don't think I've ever done a Comic-Con, no, because I'm not well known enough. I mean, I have to really explain what I did before somebody goes, oh yeah, I remember that.
Oh man. When you were exploding as a stand-up comic, ruling the Merv Griffin Show, was becoming an actor, was that just the thing? Was that the path? Do that, Merv Griffin and all those, the Tonight Show, and then become an actor? Maybe get a TV show?
I mean, I grew up in an era in stand-up. All the agents would hang out at the Comedy Store and the Improv, maybe more at the Comedy Store, looking for people to guest star or star in new series, i.e. Robin Williams, Mork and Mindy, Gabe Kaplan on Welcome Back, Kotter, and on and on. And so they were always had their eye open. So I remember one night an agent from William Morris was at the Comedy Store, and I had a kind of a bad set. And I came off the stage, and so I kind of nudged her, and I said, well, what'd you think? She said, oh, you'd be great in episodic. I guess she was right, because I did an awful lot of episodic stuff.
You think if you'd had a great set, you'd be doing series?
I don't know. Well, I did a series, and you know how that turned out.
I know. I can't wait to talk about it. Well, before Pink Lady and Jeff, you first were on Mary Hardman, some of your early episodic, Mary Hardman, the Bill Cosby variety show. So
that's right.
Yeah.
None of these shows lasted more than 5 or 6 weeks.
Yeah, right. These are all like very, very quick.
They put Cosby Show on across from Disney on Sunday night. It's 7 or 8 o'clock. I guess it was 7 o'clock. And it was a variety show for the family. You know, it died going across from Disney. You know, despite what you may think about Bill Cosby, he was always very good to me.
For purposes of this conversation, I don't have any opinions other than the entertainment value we may have brought. So that's a whole different conversation.
I understand.
Yeah. All right. So speaking of the show you were talking about, it was another variety show, Pink Lady and Jeff. This was I remember like when you called me and you're like, well, I got to move the date. I'm like, well, I hope we reschedule because I just watched 5 episodes of Pink, which I did watch a couple.
Yeah, that's all you can get through.
It was definitely interesting. But at the time, how do you pronounce their names? Kay and Me?
Yep.
Were like the hottest things in Japan. They were like a huge duo in Japan.
They were to Japan, Jeff, what the Beatles were to the Western world. I mean, they filled up like Coliseum-like stadiums and stuff. They were just huge. And so Fred Silverman got the idea that if you could break these girls in the United States, big dough.
Right. Well, I mean, on paper, it sounds like a great idea, but they couldn't speak English, right? And so it was you doing kind of stand up. You're the host, and they're talking. I think I read like they just learned all their lines phonetically.
That's right. They could say hi, how are you, how you doing, and past that, you know, it was pretty much.
I know you kind of joked about it and put your head down, and TV Guide ranked it 35 on the 50 worst TV shows of all time. But I was thinking the positive spin to that is like, that means there's 34 shows that you're better than. And
yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So, I mean, you gotta,
for that, by the way.
Yeah. I wanted to find some positive, and some of those shows are that you're better than the Chevy Chase show. I found the list, by the way. Baywatch.
Super Train.
I think Super Train is on there. Yep. Super Train. I'm just randomly Hee Haw Honeys, Cop Rock, After MASH, Celebrity Hogan's Heroes. That's an interesting one.
Hogan's Heroes,
yeah.
A worst show?
Yeah, they have it as number 5. That's sort of like makes this list kind of weird, right?
Whoa, that's very odd.
Yeah, unless
it's a great show.
Yeah, the Brady Bunch Hour, XFL, My Mother, The Car, and the number one worst show was the Jerry Springer Show.
Really?
The Powers of Matthew Starr. You beat out. Yeah. So you have a lot.
Yeah, we were by comparison strong.
When you like start to look at your resume, I mean, there was a time frame. Like, was there anyone who didn't want Jeff Altman? It seemed like everyone wanted to be in the Jeff Altman business. Like, well, you did a lot
for a time. I mean, as the '90s came on, my credit cards were being turned down in a lot of places. I had, I would say, 20 years of success and stuff, and I think I was one of the guys that got things started back in the 70s, along with Dave and Jay and some other people, George Miller, and then all the people that came out from New York after that. Yeah, back in the 70s and 80s, it was, I was in pretty good demand. One of the things that I think Robin told me this, or maybe it was Jonathan Winters, that Jonathan Winters, as great as he was, and I consider him maybe the greatest comic that ever lived, pure comic that ever existed. He said, if you don't, you do too many things that are different, people aren't going to hear you. He would give you advice, and sometimes you wouldn't understand what the hell he was talking about. I had dinner with him one night. I did a special with him and my friend Franklin Ajay and Louise Duarte called Jonathan Winters and Friends in 1989 or 90. It was a good little special. I think it was for Showtime. I developed a relationship with Showtime back in the late 80s, and we got along pretty well. And I had dinner with Jonathan Winters one night, and me and Franklin Ajay agreed that we did not understand 50% of what he said. He'd be talking to you like this, Jeff, and then all of a sudden he'd go, but, it's not like Korea. You know what I mean? When guys come up to you, you just blank. But Jonathan Winters was a genius. I mean, he was the inspiration for Robin and Tim Thomerson, I think, and me and Letterman and lots of other people. He was the purest form of comedy.
Jonathan Winters was hilarious, absolutely hilarious. So what do you do when he's just all of a sudden he's going off the rails in that conversation? You just
kind of agree. I said, okay, Jonathan, yeah, that's right. Mm-hmm. You nod your head. Franklin Ajay, who was a great, I don't know if that name rings a bell. He was, I think, one of the funnier guys that was at the Comedy Store back in the 70s and 80s. Well known. Jonathan Winters asked him where he was from, and he said, man, I'm from France. And Jonathan went, oh, I don't know. Maybe he is, maybe he's not. And that was the only time I ever saw Jonathan Winters sort of confused and fooled himself. We had a great dinner that night at the same place where, what's his name was killed, an Italian restaurant in the San Fernando Valley. His wife got killed.
Oh, Robert Blake?
Robert Blake. I can't remember the name of the restaurant, but it was a famous place.
Well, speaking of, so you worked with Robin Williams on Mork and Mindy.
I guest started on an episode of Mork and Mindy, and it was great fun.
You love improvising, so was it scripted, or was it kind of, but then Robin would just go off on whatever?
Yeah, I mean, there were places where they'd leave it blank and Robin could go off a little bit. I said all my lines. I didn't ad lib very much or at all. It was a great episode that I was very proud of. Proud to go on the show with Robin.
I mean, season 1 was exploding because he's coming off Happy Days.
Yeah,
and Mork is just like the biggest thing ever.
Yeah, and Pam Dauber was kind of easy on the eyes.
I like that Pam went to the same high school as me.
Really?
Yeah, because both of them, they're both from Michigan. Robin Williams grew up here as well. He went to I think one of the private schools here. Yeah.
Yeah. And then he went to San Francisco, I think.
Yeah. Yes.
He became a street performer.
I did not know
that. He became a street performer, And then he came down to LA and started doing it on stage, and just, it was just destruction. He just killed.
I remember talking to some of the folks from Happy Days, and they were talking. I always ask them about the Mork and Mindy episode, or the Mork episode, and they're all like, "So originally it wasn't him; it was somebody else who just couldn't do it." And someone had seen Robin Williams, and so they're like, they brought him in, and he just exploded with that character. I guess it was based on a character that he had. It went from like what they would consider, like Anson Williams would say, this was the worst piece of shit ever written for TV, to one of the greatest moments in history once Robin Williams got hold of it. Like
Williams said that?
And so, yeah, they were talking about like just how it was like horrible, like this episode, because Gary Marshall said, let's bring, his kid was like, let's give him the idea. And they wanted to bring Star Wars into Happy Days. It's just funny. Like I'm sure Robin Williams would have become famous a different way if that hadn't happened. But it's just funny that path, how that all kind of fell into place. But
yeah, right.
So one of the things that I truly do love this, even though it's crazy, you're gonna laugh at me when I bring it up. Legends of the Superheroes is like, do you remember doing?
The money was good.
The money was good. Yes, I don't think it was. You can find it like on YouTube and stuff, but for some reason, when I watched it as a kid, 9-year-old me watching it, it was like the greatest thing ever. You know what I mean?
That was, I think, what it was supposed to do. It was for young people, and I played a character, and there were some famous people that played some of those characters.
I mean, they had the Batman and Robin, Burt Ward and Adam West were there. Frank Gorshin was the Riddler.
Right, that's what I was thinking of.
And then Ed McMahon was there. Ruth Buzzy was there. The real question was, did you get to hang out with Burt Ward and Adam West? Because they would have been Batman and Robin. So that would have been super cool.
I did a scene. I had a scene where I was at a car lot selling them a car. That was kind of fun. Yeah, it was great working with those guys.
Do you remember the name of your character?
The Weather Wizard.
That's right. That's right. I went down a little rabbit hole. I wanted to see. It's a real character. They didn't make it up for the show. It was
no. All those characters were legit.
Yeah, some of them were the first time they were ever actually a live action version of them.
Yeah. No, I enjoyed doing that. I was in love with my first wife when I did that show, and I just remember wanting to get off the set, get up to her place. That was a long time ago.
Yeah, it was a long time ago, but it was when I was watching a reel, and there was like a second or something. There was some clip on YouTube, and it was just you for like a second. I'm like, oh my God, that's right. And for some reason, Retirement Man is what stuck in my head, like from a kid, like remembering that show even existed, because it's not like it's everywhere or anything like that.
That's right.
The Wizard, Wizard,
Weather Wizard,
Weather Wizard,
Tongue Twister,
enemy of the Flash. Archie Bunker's Place, Carol O'Connor.
The woman who I just referred to, my first wife, who was like one of my very closest people in the world to me, mother of my child, my only child, Faith. She was a terrific actress. What was it you just mentioned? What show?
Archie Bunker's Place.
Yeah, she had done movies, All in the Family, and she knew Carol O'Connor real well. So I got to know Carol. And when we got married, they threw us a party at their home. So I got to know Carol pretty well. He was just a terrific fellow. He selected me to be an attorney on Archie Bunker's Place. I played an attorney.
You were on Night Court. Speaking of episodic, Night Court's one of my favorite shows. I love that show. But breaking the episodic trend, at least for a season, Nurses, the Empty Nest spinoff, for at least the first season.
I was not on Empty Nest.
No, the spinoff, Nurses.
That's right.
Yeah.
Nurses spun off.
Yeah.
And I didn't handle myself very well on that show.
What happened?
Well, the writers on that show kept using the same jokes. Every episode that would come in would have something about roadkill in it. Oh, he was going home, and there was some roadkill, they sent me some roadkill jokes to do. And I took the piece of paper and I said, can you see if these guys can punch this up a little? Well, I didn't return for the second season. It was on for 3 years, I think.
You think they wrote you off like?
Oh, they wanted to get rid of me as fast as they could.
Do you regret it? Do you regret like?
Yeah, I do. Actually, I handled myself inappropriately, and there was a lot of talented people on that show. As I say, it existed, I think, for three seasons on TV, and I wish I could have done all three, but they just hated me.
It's got to be tough though, being a comic and being handed some hacky jokes that could be better.
It's and if you really couldn't suggest much because you were dealing with Whit Thomas Harris, and they were a huge production company in Hollywood at the time. And you don't walk up to them and say, "Well, I am a stand-up. Maybe these jokes would work better." And this play, it doesn't go over real well.
Right. There's Soap, eventually Golden Girls, all that kind of stuff. Like, yeah. Or Golden Girls would have been at the same time, right? Because Empty Nest was a spin-off of Golden Girls.
They had a lot of shows on the air then, Jeff.
That is true. All right. So I'm just kind of cherry picking some of the stuff. You were on Baywatch a bunch of times, a few times as the same character.
Never one of these guys. Go for it, man. I like to body surf, but I never can find a body. Ooh. I was never a lifeguard. I played a different character every time I came on the show. Well, maybe twice I played the same guy, but every time they hired me, I played a different character. It was a lot of fun, Plus, you got to see a lot of women. You know what I mean?
Well, right, because you were on multiple seasons, so you would have that show turned over a lot. You would have probably been with. Were you with Pam Anderson years? Like,
oh yeah, and this goes back again to my former wife Leslie Ackerman, who I have mentioned a couple of times. She and I played characters based on an old movie called The Heartbreak Kid, and my love interest. I was supposed to be married to my actual wife. I saw Pam Anderson on the beach, and my eyes just went like googly, and so she became a love interest for me on the show until I think I got a pie in the face. So I worked with Pam on one episode a good amount.
Probably good that you weren't one of the surfer dudes, because I watched the the Baywatch thing, and like they were all like so self-conscious. You don't think of the guys as like, but like Hasselhoff's like after every scene.
He was a nice guy, by the way.
David Hasselhoff. He seems like he'd be a nice guy.
Yeah, I saw him a couple of weeks ago, and I said, "David Hasselhoff," and he said, "Just call me Hoff." And I said, "Okay, no hassle." Ugly joke.
Oh, Maude. Norman Lear. So you did some Norman Lear stuff. President Carter. So clearly, from anyone listening up to this point, you're good with the voices. You're master with some of these impressions. I
used to do Jimmy Carter pretty well, and they hired me, I guess, to do a voiceover or something on that show. And I actually did an album for Polygram Records. I think it was Polygram, based on Jimmy Carter. Do you remember an album, Jeff, called All in the Family? Not All in the Family.
First Family?
The First Family. And
it's funny you mentioned that. I was just at a record store. Every time I go to a record store, I look for that record.
And can't find it?
I found a different one. I found like a sequel to it.
Yeah, the sequel wasn't good.
And then Allison Arngrim did one as Amy Carter, I look for. But First Family I did because so many comedians were inspired by that.
Absolutely. It was one of the, I think that album came out in like 1962, and Vaughn Meter did Jack F. Kennedy. Then we tried to do the same thing on Polygram in 1977 called, what the heck was the name of the album? The Hillbilly Heaven or something. I don't know. And I played Jimmy Carter. It was a lot of fun, actually, doing that album.
What's it called? I'll look for it. Hillbilly.
No, it was called, I can't believe I can't remember the name of that album.
I'll find it. I'll look it up.
Yeah. But I did Jimmy Carter, and I believe it's very important to point out at this time that I am no longer here. They liked the voice, and so I got the part, and it was a great experience actually doing that. I had never done an album or a record before.
So you don't have a copy of the album? You don't have the?
Yeah, I do.
Oh, you do?
It's in my closet, but I'm not going over there, thanks.
No, you don't have to do it. Yeah, you don't. I believe you. You don't have to show me. No, but that's awesome that you have it.
The Washington Hillbillies.
Oh, the Washington Hillbillies? Okay, I'll watch it.
I think that was it.
Really cool. So you did, was it just a voiceover, or was there a visual too on Maude? Because you also did All's Fair, which is another Norman Lear show. You did President Carter's voice.
Yeah, I did Carter's voice on several shows. All's Fair was cool. I got to work with Bernadette Peters and
Richard Crenna.
Richard Crenna. I'll never forget this. I'm on Richard Crenna. He said to me something that was, I thought, funny, and I wrote him back. I said, yes, I would like a hot caramel enema. I spelled caramel, Carmel. And he gave the piece of paper back to me, as if I hadn't finished the 4th grade and said, you misspelled caramel, because it's Caramel. Caramel.
Caramel, yeah.
So for the rest of the show, I felt like a complete dunce.
That's funny though.
So I did Jimmy Carter again. I think I did, right?
Right. Now, and you never forgot how to spell caramel. So there's all those upsides. You did an episode of, this is the episodic thing worked out well, because you were in like every show I watched.
All these shows virtually were in the 80s.
Yeah, well, they're all awesome. We could pick something like 8 is enough. That was in the 70s.
Yeah, I think I played a minister who married Van Patten, and she was very famous. She did Broadway. She did Cats.
Oh, from 8 is enough?
Yep.
Oh yeah, the mom.
Yeah, she was a big star on Broadway. She starred in Cats. Can't remember her name. I think she passed away, actually.
Betty Buckley.
Betty Buckley. Yeah, she was great. How do you remember that?
I know things.
You are a genius, my friend.
So memories. Yeah.
Yeah.
I owe it to her. She sang the one good song from the play, so I should remember her name.
That's right. The one good song.
But Harry Anderson, Night Court. The whole cast was great. I mean, but
that was a great show. I got to work a lot with John Larroquette, and that was just a treat.
So good. He's so good.
That was when they were, I think, discussing with Harry about his plans for the following year, and they were having some negotiation problems. So they brought me in to play the judge that week.
You were the leverage.
I guess they said, well, if you don't want to do it, Jeff Altman, well, he does magic too. Harry Anderson was a talented magician.
Oh yeah. I remember watching him on Cheers and stuff. Yeah, it's Saturday Night Live and Cheers. Like yeah. He
used to do a thing where you put a needle right through his arm.
Yeah. The geek
blood
tricks
would come down, and you would take it out, and it would all be healed. He did that just great.
Yeah, there's some really funny clips from Cheers as well, where he's doing stuff at the at the bar and stuff. Yeah, he was awesome. Oh, so they tried to so you almost became the new Night Court.
Well, I don't think that he was going to ever leave that show. That would have been a huge mistake. But I guess I was a bargaining chip of somehow.
Get us Jeff Altman. We got. Oh man, I don't mean to be picking shows. I'm picking shows that I watched. You know what I mean? So that's why they're of interest. So if I'll let you pick any. Is there one you want to bring by? You have one.
Strange thing, Jeff, that the new Night Court, I don't know if it's still on the air.
I think it just got canceled. Yeah.
Did it? Yeah, it wasn't very good, and it didn't really show Larroquette at his best, because he was funny.
Oh, he was like, when the original Night Court run, I mean, he won Emmys every year. I mean, he was like on fire, that guy. You couldn't even touch him.
Tremendous.
Yeah, I wish it was like when they bring back a show like that, it's like, I get it, it's IP or whatever, and so it's recognizable, but they had everyone in that show. They could have just done a different show. You know what I mean? It didn't have to be Night Court. Because then you're comparing it. It's like, oh, this is his daughter. And it's like,
absolutely.
Yeah. Like they should bring back a different K-pop group and you should host it. Like that would make sense. Like that would actually work now. It's funny how Pink Lady and Jeff now would be probably huge because K-pop and like.
The strange thing about that show is they made them sing in English for the first 4 shows. And I went in and begged Marty Krofft, who one of the producers of the show, the Krofft brothers produced it. I said to Marty, let them sing in Japanese and it'll be really good. And so they did, and it was terrific. But by then it was kind of like the ratings were. Although Letterman called me once and we talked, and he said, that show got a 24 rating when it hit the air, and if a 24 rating now would be just huge. But back then it was subpar.
You were just before your time. But so how was it working with Sid and Marty Krofft? That's H&R Puff and stuff.
That's right.
That's like some classic stuff there. Land of the Lost, lots of great stuff they did.
They were both terrific fellows. They were both, Sid, I believe, is alive. Marty is not. But Sid is like 107 or something.
Yeah, he's still doing shows and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, he's amazing.
Yeah.
He's just amazing.
Oh, man.
By the way, Jeff, I don't know if you read, did you read the paper this morning?
No, maybe.
Whatever. And this is an aside. in Nepal, where, in the Himalayas, where people live to be like 1,000. The oldest man in the world died today.
Oh, yeah?
He was 117. His mother was devastated. I'm doing the act. I'll tell you.
Oh, hey. So you were in Soul Man. That aged well. And then it's funny how it's funny when you look back on some things. Was doing the movie with Rodney Dangerfield fun, or was he different during a movie? Or
no, it was Rodney all the time. I really had fun playing that part. I mean, that was cool. I got to be a cocaine dealer and try to sell him cocaine when he's trying to clean his life up. And at one point, I looked at him. We're outside. I think I brought my dog outside to take a crap, and I said, "Listen, pal, the next thing you want is a little Tutarutski." And I tried to say, and then he said, "Well, my daughter here, is trying to help me." And I said, "Well, if you got a family connection, that's cool." And she was trying to help him clean up.
Right. Do you know Dennis Blair?
Yeah, I know who he is. Sure.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. He was. I know he was in that movie as well. I know we talked.
Do you know Dennis?
I had him on the show. We chatted about, amongst other things, Rodney. Everyone's got Rodney stories. Like everyone's got Rodney stories.
Did people tell you that if they ever went into his place, that he was always undressed or had on a robe with nothing underneath it, little thin black socks and slippers?
Every single person, yeah. That's like the go-to. Like
he was one of a kind. I'll tell you, there were no two Rodneys.
No, man. The other thing that when people talk about Rodney Dangerfield is just how generous he was. Like you experienced that. You were on his special and the stand-up special and his special and the movie, but he was so giving to other comedians.
Oh yeah,
helped so many people.
Yeah, and he became very close friends with, strangely, Sam Kinison. You'd see Rodney walking around outside at the Comedy Store going, "Hey, I'll tell you seen Sam? Where's Sam? Okay." They were buddies.
That was a great, because he was in Back to School. Sam Kinison, he had him in Back to School.
That's right.
Sam Kinison is so funny. Tragic loss. Dukes of Hazzard. So that's another one. I know you do shows. We talked about, like, one of the reasons we didn't talk sooner is because you were doing a Dukes of Hazzard event. Is the fan base of that show, they still
unbelievable? It's like, there are two shows that I can talk about one that I know a lot about and one that I don't know so much about, that have a fan base that's just unheralded. And one is Star Trek, the other is the Dukes of Hazzard. And they have these events in different places. There was a character on the show played by a guy named Ben Jones. He played a character called Cooter. He started these stores called Cooters. There's one in Nashville, one in Luray, Virginia, which is the main one, and one in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee, was why I couldn't do the show a couple weeks ago. They go there, and sometimes thousands of people will show up looking to see, Daisy Duke and Tom Wopat and John Schneider, and even the character I played, which was Boss Hogg's nephew, Huey Hogg.
Huey Hogg. Yeah, they had you back pretty much every season. They
would put a whole show around my character every season.
That must have felt good.
Oh, tremendous. I think maybe the most fun I ever had doing a show.
Because you just got to be even slimier than Boss Hogg.
That's right. I got to talk in a Southern accent, and I got to be, over the top, which was kind of the way I always was anyway. It worked out, and it's still paying dividends to this day. I'm very happy.
So when you go to these fan events, because I saw, like, I was watching a clip, you wear the white outfit, the white hat.
No, I don't wear the whole outfit. I just wear a cowboy hat and a white shirt.
Yeah, white shirt. That's what I meant. You were wearing white and the white.
Yeah, and if that doesn't trigger their imagination, I ain't getting dressed up in a fat suit every time, which is what they put me in.
Oh, they made you wear a fat suit?
Yeah.
You weren't as fat as J.D. Hogg,
though. No. Boss Hogg was played by a fellow named Sorrel Book, who, if you saw his face on the screen, everybody would go, "Oh, I saw him in this," or "I saw him in that," or "We played in an Army film." Oh, yeah, he was ubiquitous. He was all over television and movies for years until he developed this character of Boss Hogg, and that's where he, I think, became the most famous. I definitely became the most famous.
I love the Dukes of Hazzard growing up.
Bless your heart, as they say.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that would have been my early going right into my teen years. I think I had gone before they left, Tom and John, and they brought in the lookalike cousins. You know?
I just worked with one of those guys, Byron
Yeah.
Cherry, who played Coy Duke.
Right, right. For those of you not paying attention, these two look exactly like the two that just left. But did they leave from like for contract reasons?
Yeah, they walked off. Tom and John walked off because the show was huge, and they weren't paying them what they deserved, I suppose, and they took a hike.
They're like, we're going to bring Huey back. He's going to be a judge. No,
I did an episode with Coy and Vance Duke, who were the replacements.
and then they came back, right? Then they came back eventually, right?
They came back, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So Daisy Dukes, Catherine Bach, Daisy Duke. I mean, all of them. Yeah. I mean,
you don't need to explain Daisy Dukes.
No. I mean, that's like one of the everlasting things I think from that show.
When she comes to one of these events, Jeff, the lines are just sometimes 3 hours long to wait for an autograph, if you can believe that.
Wow.
And people do it. People stand in line.
Does she work it? Do they all work it? Like with the photos and like
take a picture, sign an autograph. It's like Shatner must do on Star Trek.
Oh yeah, I've been to Comic Cons where Shatner's there. It's like holding court. It's like,
is it?
Yeah, I mean, it's just like the line is ridiculous. You have to buy the pictures a day in advance, like so they lock you in, even if you don't actually get the autograph. You're dropping $100-some on the picture. Yeah, you buy in advance. And I went to his panel, like, and he just starts talking, just telling stories. It's like it's crazy, but
he's great though. He's I think 90 or something, isn't he?
Yeah, he's old, but he's just going to be one of those people that you're gonna be like, oh, he died, but he was fine up until that exact moment, because when his time's up, it'll be up. But hopefully he'll go on for
right.
a while. So what are the lines for Tom and John?
John gets huge lines. Tom gets huge lines. Unfortunately, one of the cast members who was a good friend of mine, even before the Dukes of Hazzard, Rick Hurst, who has the record in Hollywood for doing the most commercials. He did 146 commercials in 2 years.
Oh, wow.
Never been broken. He just passed away. Played Cletus.
Cletus, yeah. He, sorry for your loss.
In fact, I texted him and received a text from him hours before he died.
Oh, wow.
Tough.
It is tough. In the same sense, it's like, well, at least you got one more in. Sometimes it's always like, I talked to him a month ago or something. So
yep.
The universe was like, send this text. What do you have from the show? Is your white hat the white hat from the show that you wore?
I have nothing from the show. I have to go out and buy white shirts and hats. And then sometimes
part of your expense account.
Sometimes people will come up and go,
hey, how much is that hat you're wearing?
And I'll say a number, and they'll say either yes or no. So sometimes I sell the hats.
Do they have you sign it then too? Or they?
Oh, sure.
To me, that says bring more hats.
That's it. I just thought about doing that this past time in Pigeon Forge, because there's a store that sells the hats right near one of the Cooters. It's a great idea. We have the same. We're sharing a brain.
There you go. And you put it down and you say there, whatever you charge, $50 for the hat, whatever, with and whatever it is. But if you want me to put it on first, $75.
Put it on and do the character.
Yeah. Then they can take a picture with you in it, wearing the hat, and that makes it even more valuable.
They do that sometimes. They'll take a little video of you signing, or there are strange requests from many different kinds of people. I
can imagine. I've waited in line for people at Comic Cons that I thought I was a fan of. And you sit there and you realize, oh, I don't even scratch the surface compared to some of these people.
Well, mention some of the people you've stood in line for.
Michael Nesmith.
Oh, yeah.
That would be the one I'm talking about specifically, like where I'm like, I love the Monkees.
I worked for him.
You did?
Yeah. He did a pilot for a show in which I played a boxer. I used to do a character called Leonard Moon. He was a boxer who had been hit in the head way too many times. Anyway, he liked the character. He put me in the ring saying stuff. He was the producer of the show.
Oh, that's awesome. I have a huge Monkees fans. I had him and Mickey Dolenz sign a Headquarters album. I never got to meet Davey and Peter had passed away before they both passed away before I got a chance to meet them. But in terms of standing in line, everything behind me and it goes all the way around. Those are all people I stood in line for.
Yeah, I think Dolan's is still around.
Dolan's is still around. Yeah, he's still singing too. I mean, he just put out an album from the Troubadour last year. It was great.
No kidding.
Yeah, his voice sounds amazing. It's like,
wow.
He sounds like he never, like they plucked him right out of the 60s. Yeah, still, I mean, yeah. So.
Well, the Troubadour was certainly a huge proving ground for many people who went on to become extremely famous.
Huge names started there. Huge, yeah.
Steve Martin.
John. Yeah, huge.
That was before my time, actually.
Jeff, part of so you're doing TV, you're doing movies, doing stand-up, and then Matt, you're like one of the top magicians in the world right now.
Well, I wouldn't say I'm one of the top magicians.
I said it. You didn't say it. I said it.
You can take responsibility for this when you get letters. But I would say that I'm fairly adept with a deck of cards.
Is that a specific close-up magic?
Exactly.
Okay, so when I rank you in the top magicians, you would say like a David Copperfield might be in a different list.
Oh, absolutely. Okay. Those are illusionists, and they do very different magic. But there are it's strange. Jeff, when I started doing stand-up comedy, there were about, 250 guys or 300 guys in the country that could call themselves stand-up comics that were working, kind of. Now, if you go into a Denny's and say, "Pardon me, are there any stand-up comics here?" 5 people will get up out of their chair. The same is true with magic. When I came out to the Magic Castle in 1974, I was a kid. There were only a handful of really, really good young sleight of hand artists. Now there are conventions where you see kids doing stuff that's just frightening. But I hang in there.
You hang in there?
Yeah.
So, Penn and Teller have a fun show where they do the magicians do the thing and then they try and guess or they explain how it happened or how they did it. So
that's right. Did you ever watch that?
I've seen clips of it and stuff like It's definitely it's definitely interesting. Yeah.
They're terrific, by the way.
They are. They're really good. The people on that show are great too. I mean, some of that stuff they do is like
you see some of the people I'm referring to on that show. I have good friends that have been on that show.
Why have you not been on the show?
Haven't been asked. I think it would be a possibility. I just have to get something up that I knew would fool them. I think I have a couple of those in the bag, but I just have never.
I'll have my people call their people.
Yeah, I haven't done that yet. So for some reason, I don't know. Maybe that's a good idea. I should do Penn and Teller.
You should. All right. How often do you perform magic and do? Is it the same thing where you're doing a set where you can do X amount of time or?
Well, I do private parties. I do corporate events. I do between those two things. It takes up some time, but it ain't like being a stand-up back in the 80s or 70s when I was working every minute. So some of my gigs are few and far between, but I'm doing it all the time, and I'm publishing material sometimes, and I go to conventions and meet with a lot of the people I mentioned just a little bit ago, and I'm friendly with some of the best guys in the country. I'm lucky I have those relationships.
That's awesome.
It's a lot of fun.
Would you prefer doing corporate magic versus corporate stand-up?
I'm not I'm not a stage magician. So if I did corporate, it would be sort of, at the dinner hour going around table to table going,
"You enjoy card tricks?"
No, I wouldn't say that, but that would be the sort of the theme. You'd go table to table, you'd walk, it's called walk around magic. I can do that, or I can do a group of people, 20 or 30 people. But as it starts to get bigger than that, you need a guy who can come out and make the Statue of Liberty disappear.
Very cool. Thanks for hanging out with me. I appreciate it.
This is great. I really enjoyed it.
So many great stories. You're awesome. You're awesome.
Oh, thank you.
So it's always good to have another Jeff on the show too.
That's right. Can't beat that name.
No, there's no more new Jeffs. We gotta stick together. Thank you, Jeff Altman. I appreciate you, and thanks for hanging out with me, man.
Thanks, Jeff. I really appreciate it.
I feel like you need to throw down and then smoke, and then you're just gone.
That was awful.
No, you should have gone. You should have gone where you smashed the the stool.
Oh, gee. That's why I used to open my act.
I know. I saw clips on it of you doing it a million times. Surprised your head still doesn't hurt.
That's why my back hurts today.
Oh, you're back.
Oh.
Fun at the time. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, man.